What's up guys, Annie from the Honap Project, and today we are working on the Harley. We're going to be converting this thing from what it was to a 1250, so there's a lot of other implications, a lot of things we got to take care of before we can do that. So today we are working on this. This is the clutch. So as you can see, we already removed the primary, took out all the assembly, took out all the friction discs and the steel discs, and we're ready to do an install for the new ones. I just want to go over with you, just so you can see. I mean, I should have started this from the beginning so you guys could watch, because I ain't found a video on this on anywhere that shows a really good instruction on how to put this thing together. So if you look inside here, that's where all the friction plates and the steel plates set. This is where the clutch assembly goes, and that's what came out of it. So right here are all our old friction plates, all that stuff right there. This is the clutch assembly with the diaphragm spring on there. Being that we're going to be upgrading this engine to a 1250, we got to use a stronger spring, so that came in with the kit. That's it right there. So we're going to be taking that off and putting that one on so it can handle the pressure. But we'll go into that a little bit later, because there's actually, if you look real close in there, I don't know if you can see it, but there's a C-clip that sits in there underneath that diaphragm, which holds it in place. So nonetheless, when you get your kit, first thing you want to do is you want to take it out and you want to soak it. So for Harleys, the oil and the primary fluid are completely different. So we went ahead and bought some primary fluid right here, and we are currently soaking our new friction disc and steel plates in that primary fluid. Now, suggestively, you want to soak it for about 10 to 15 minutes so it can get into swell up to operation, how it should be when it's operating. After that, we're going to take that out. We'll probably use that same primary fluid to put back into the case once we put the cover and the gasket back on. But I'll walk you guys through that process so that you guys can see how it goes. So we're going to let that sit and we'll come back to you. While we're waiting for those new friction discs and the steel plates to soak in the transmission fluid, the primary fluid, I figured to walk you guys through how we are going to do this thing. So this right here, again, is the assembly. This will sit actually right on top of here, okay, when it's all pre-assembled. And then the C-clip goes right inside here. Wait, let me get a thing so you can see. The C-clip goes right inside here on top of this thing, that right there. And then when we release this, the compressed diaphragm spring will push up against that and lock it into place. So what we're going to do is we're going to be changing that out to a stronger one. So I'm going to grab my 9/16, okay? That's going to prevent this thing from turning while we're turning this thing. And we're going to loosen this spring. Oh, we're going to try and loosen this spring. Jesus. Hold on. There we go. Okay. So we're going to loosen this to get this off. Okay. And when you initially do this, you want to make sure that you're not doing it too hard, because you don't want to damage anything. All you're doing is trying to get it compressed enough so you can take that C-clip off. Okay. So I'm going to take this thing out. Not break anything, hopefully. Okay, take that off. This is gonna come off. Okay, that stays there, so we can get that down in there. But this is what we're changing out right here. All right, so this thing right here is what we're changing out. We're gonna take this, put this on the side. This is a 15% stronger diaphragm spring, so we're gonna put that back on like that. And we're gonna make sure that this, get that out of the way. Now remember what I said, this thing is 15% stronger, okay? So it's gonna take a little bit more force to get it on there. Again, not so much that we break it, but just enough so that we get it in place. Now, the other thing you want to make sure, here, let me take this off for so I can explain this. The other thing you want to make sure is that you see these right here. Make sure it lines up correctly with the holes, the portholes, okay? Because the last thing you want is put this thing back on, and it's not where it needs to be when it's compressed, and then it's not ever going to fit back on there again, because those, let me show you these little arms. these arms right here will go in those, and those are what hold the C-clip down. If you can see a little groove in there. Okay, so again, not so much that it's gonna break, but just enough so that it seats it down enough. I'm gonna put that in there, that on there, put that there. Again, we're gonna hold this thing, put this thing back on. All right, and it looks like we're pretty good, so we're gonna go ahead and start compressing. Again, this may take a bit, actually a lot, but yeah. With this 15% stronger one, don't be afraid. You know, just get it down there. That's gonna get in there, and that's good enough for now. We don't have to tighten it all the way because we're not putting it back on the bike yet. But when we do go to put it back on the bike, this right here, this is the C-clip that sits inside there. Inside that little thing, those grooves on the assembly, so it'll hold it in place. But anyway, so now we got that changed out. Now we're just gonna wait for a little bit more for the friction discs and all that to soak, and then we'll come back and we'll put those in. Alright guys, we're back. We're gonna start putting in the new friction discs and steel discs now. Basically we've let these things soak for about 10-15 minutes in the primary fluid, of course. Okay, so we're gonna start putting these in. It's always good to remember, when whatever you take out, as far as, you know, these types of things, you want to make sure you put them back in the same way. So with this, it goes friction disc first, then steel plate. Okay, this we're not using because this is crap. Okay, so this we're not even putting this back in the bike. That's not even an option. So we got the last one in. Okay, so there you have it. That's all the friction discs and the steel plates. Now we're gonna move on to the assembly. So we're gonna go ahead and put this back on here, just like this. Okay, so all our stuff is good to go. All that's aligned. We don't want that. So we're gonna need to compress this a lot more, because of the fact that this ring needs to be seated enough. This ring right here needs to be seated enough so we can get that C-clip in there. So again, we're gonna take our 9/16 and we're gonna turn this bad boy so we can get it in there. See if we can get that in there. So again, the C-clip, I'm going to put that in. I'm going to try to put that in, see what happens. Okay, looks like we compressed it enough. Alright, so C-clip's in. So that snapped right in there. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're going to decompress this, and that snap ring should hold this whole assembly on. So let's not do that. I want to change that. Okay, slowly come off here. Oh, and we're going to take this off. Okay, now we got to remove this. So as you can see, this thing spins around, right? So I'm just gonna put it on. It shouldn't be too tight. Let me just take it off like that. Voila, there you go. Okay, primary case is back on. So when you another thing that's important for you guys, when you go to take this off or when you go to put it back on, you want to make sure that you're doing the screws in sequence. So the way I'm going to put these back on are the same way I took it off. We're going to start with the one here, number 1. Then we're going to move down to number 2, and then after number 2 is number 3. Number 3 is 4. Actually, this is 4. This is 3. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So we're going to do it in that fashion so that we don't warp the cover in any way. Same way when you take it off. You take it off 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, so on and so forth. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and tighten this up right now. Alright, so we got all the primary screws back in. We're going to go ahead and put the clutch cable back in first, so that we can go ahead and put this plate in after. Alright guys, and there you got it. The primer's back on, the covers and everything are back on, the cable's back on. One thing that I wanted to point out is when you do go to remove this case, it's very important that you take that screw bolt right here. That is the chain tension, okay? tension bolt for the chain. You want to loosen that so you can get that out, and when you go to put it back on, you gotta make sure you tighten this. Okay, now I left this where it's at, so all I gotta do is tighten it up, so we're good to go. You might want to mark it with something if that's the case, I'm not sure, but anyway, that's back on. We're gonna go ahead and tighten that back up, and then we're gonna start putting the fluid in. But that's the basics of it. Clutch done, case back on, moving on to the next project.
Who that, brah?